Hi, good morning, and welcome to the ZP Developer Zone on the 4th of May 2023. We like to do these at 8 a.m. London time, but I've actually had to come on a little bit early today because we have workshops and meetings. So I'll sort of discuss that very quickly, but let me go forward with the slides. Today you're going to get the really accelerated version, so I apologize if I'm talking fast, but obviously this is recorded, so you can obviously go back and sort of watch the recording. So let me go forward a little bit. So we do have our ZP free resources. We have our ZP Academy. We do this webinar every week. We do collaborations, but these are generally with projects with academia that do have a source of funding. Sometimes it's Marie Curie, etc., like that. We do offer jobs, and of course we do have our ZP Developer Zone website. And last but not least, we also have our workshops, and the workshops is basically why I'm sort of speaking so fast today. Our workshops are actually cover CGM, continuous glucose monitoring, wearable biosensors, analysis in sweat, and our workshops also cover IVD in vitro diagnostics. So we do cover a lot in our workshops, and these workshops, for example, as I say, we're doing one today. So you can see that we have one indicated here in Horton. By the way, every time you see a link, the link is already underneath the video. I did move them across. So if you're interested in wearable sensors, including measuring, for example, cortisol in sweat, then you should attend one of our workshops. And I have put a link to these various workshops that we are doing. And by the way, we do a workshop every month, one in Norway and one in the UK. So if you don't find one that you're looking for, just reach out to us, and you'll find that I will be organizing them. It's generally the first week in Norway, and the second week is in the UK. Now, one of the questions that's come in there, this didn't come in this week, is can we do multiplex testing, 1 drop of blood to do, for example, 3 tests? I will cover that. I'll also do sensors for water testing. This particular one is coming from the kind of UK, so I think an Innovate UK grant would be the best way forward on that. We've had 2 inquiries this week on cortisol. I think the sensor that we have most inquiries on is basically at the moment is cortisol sensing. And we also had a question on functionalizing a screen printed electrodes. So I apologize for the speediness of going through this, but I will cut straight to the chase. First of all, on multiplexing, is it possible to have 3 or more sensors combined so that we can just test on 1 drop of blood? The answer is absolutely yes. If you look at, and this was a slide that I put up last week, ZP, and we not only take a sort of a technical view on things, we can also take a commercial view on things as well. So last week I talked about a company called iStat and a company called EpoCal. I talked about their cost to get to market, and I talked about the time or the effort, at least the time that it took these guys to get to sort of regulatory approval. It was all covered last week, so I'm not going to go over it again. But if you do look at iStat, you'll actually find out that one of their cartridges can do more than 8 tests on that particular cartridge. So the iStat cartridge works is you put a sample of blood on there, sample of blood moves along the microfluidic channel, goes over the sensors, and you can do this multi-analyte testing. And I also want to say the same for EPOC as well. That's on the front of this diagnostic, it sort of lists out pH and sodium and glucose and PCO2, potassium lactate, O2, calcium creatinine, hematocrit, and chloride. So the quick answer to your question is, can you do more than 1 analyte on a medical diagnostic? 1 drop of blood, 3 tests? Yes, the answer is you can. And if somebody tries to challenge you on it, then these are 2 easy defenses that you can reference iStat, and you can also reference EPOC. At ZP, we already have a platform for doing this. Our platform could do 6 tests at a time. This is sort of something in the lab. This is the bare bones of it. It's got a touch screen on it, and here she's just sort of testing 6 sensors in a row. This is a kind of a rendering of this product. So before we started doing this, this is what it looked like. So you take the sensor, you put it in there, the sample wicks up. Now this is actually a derivative of something that we did a long time ago. What you're looking at here is something that's the size of a credit card. It really only takes a drop, that we put on there. Now, in this video, and I'm sorry that I actually didn't link to this, but it is actually on YouTube. It is also on our website. If you ever go Zimmer Peacock, credit cards, microfluidics, you hopefully find it. What's happening in that video now is all 6 channels are actually filling at the essentially in parallel. And so that combined with the previous device, yes, we can do more than 3 tests, for example, on this kind of credit card format. So I hope that is useful to you. Question number 2, sensors for water testing pH. This is a very interesting one for us. I always find that it's very hard when you're doing medical diagnostics and wearable biosensors. People are essentially willing to pay for the R&D and willing to pay for the effort, but you find that, unfortunately, things like precision agriculture, environmental testing, water testing, the only real funders you often find, unfortunately, are government agencies, because society cares, but it's sometimes hard to build a business case on these. Anyway, that's a bit of a side point. Let's jump on to the actual question. Somebody wants to test pH in river water, which is fine, and a sort of pH of 6 to 9, that's fine. So let me just jump to it. So Zimmer Peacock, we have a mesh network sensor technology, so we can take our sensors, we can put them into a more robust format, and then we can connect them to base stations and send that data to something called Julie, which is our cloud. And from there, we can send the data to apps, and we're having a really good time at the moment with app development. So if I describe Zimmer Peacock, I would describe it as a sensor to API. So we sense something, we have the electronics for it, we like to have connectivity to the cloud, we send it to the cloud, and then people can pull upon our data using an API call. The reason I do this then is because in the end, in a lot of these sort of environmental and agricultural applications, ZP's business model is to work with others, but it is to get the data to our cloud, and then from our cloud it will be called across using an API call. People can bypass us and just essentially buy the sensors, straight off the website. But really the real value and the real interest from us, from our business case, is actually doing the whole sensor to API part. I have put some useful links in regards to water testing. There's something called a potted, in fact it's here. So we know how to put the sensors into a sort of format that's more robust. But I would say on this one, because the particular inquiry is from the UK, I think something like an Innovate, unless there's a really good payer, I think an Innovate UK grant would be the right kind of format for this. We've had at least 2 inquiries this week on cortisol sensors. As I say, it's our most sort of inquired about sensor. We did used to put it for sale on the web store, but in the end, it's such a valuable sort of product that, in fact, we'd rather work with people who are willing to engage on projects with us. So this is a link, first of all, to the cortisol sensor. I know the inquirers know about this, but then actually what I've also put is a few links to what we really want to do is we want to be engaged on projects regarding the cortisol sensor. So we have a small project, and or rather, yeah, we have these projects. So I think if I was to back up slightly and say, yeah, we do have a cortisol sensor. It's had well over $1 million spent on it so far. It's very good. We're very happy with it, but we will only engage with people on projects regarding this. Now, I apologize that I've spoken so fast this morning. Literally, I do have to go and do workshops, etc. But last question today, which is question number 4, is modifying electrodes. So we got this image through. I obviously I've put a link to the product here as well. And the person is functionalizing our electrode. And I did ask them, and they said, yeah, you can use the image in your webinar. So thank you so much for that. And it's a great image because their, let's say, problem is that they're, well, I'll describe the problem in the next slides, actually. They're dropping, you can almost see it, they're dropping a drop onto this sensor, and it's drying out and it's cracking. My first, the first thing I'd ask them to do is actually go into the lab, put a drop like 1 microliter, and draw that drop. And I did say 1 microliter. Draw that drop along the working electrode, because I basically just think that you're adding too much material. You're adding, if I look at this drop, it looks around about 30 to 50 microliters. It's too big a drop. And so I think if you want to kind of get you really need a thinner film, and a thinner film would basically mean less volume, and draw it out only over the working electrode. And we do this in our workshops all the time, where in fact we just did it yesterday with 4 attendees, where they took 1 microliter, they just touched the pipette so onto the electrode. They didn't scratch across the surface, they just pushed with their thumb and drew the 1 microliter drop across that surface, and that worked really well. So question number 1, can we multiplex tests? Yes, you can. If you're talking to investors, you can talk about iStat and EpoCal. These are both proven you can do it. And also Zimmer Peacock already has a platform for doing 6 analytes in parallel, and we also have that microfluidic credit card setup. Sensors for water testing. People can just buy the sensors off the website and completely bypass us. If otherwise, it has to be a project, and if the project doesn't have funding, then I think Innovate UK is probably the best way forward. In terms of cortisol sensors, yes, we do have it. I put a link to it, and I know you know, but we're really looking to be engaged on substantial projects with that sensor, and then functionalizing a screen printed electrode. I think the drop was just too big. I would literally drop the volume down to 1 microliter, draw that line across the working electrode, keep it only on the working electrode, by the way, and then see if you get a sort of a better, and I think you get a better, thinner film. So I just want to say thank you, and I apologize for speaking so fast today, but busy day ahead. Okay, thanks very much.